Well, welcome everybody to what I call contest planning. It's sort of a contest 101. More for clubs. I'll go in a little bit more into area, division, district contests, but a lot of this applies to just the club. So I do have a PowerPoint. And just let me know if you have questions. I'm going to go ahead and so just break in because I may not see you. So again, today is this contest. If you're a little bit anxious about contest season, this is what I call you've come to the right place. My name is Sue Lighthoff. I am this year's and last year's contest chair for the district, and I love contests. Well, I don't like competing in contests. I really don't. I actually use this as my excuse, but I love planning. So I've planned in the past. Before last year, I had planned districts and division, and now I can actually say district contests that I've prepared.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's what I love about it is it's a challenge, but it's a doable challenge. And if you work as a team, it's definitely doable. So this is something I just sort of like. It's Toastmasters puts out there, and it's time to let your voice and stories stand out. That's just Toastmasters. I don't know. I didn't have a chance to watch this year's world champion of public speaking, but it's a way of putting yourself out there, whether pushing your boundaries. So today we're going to be talking the who, what, whys, wheres, whos, and whens of contests. Talking a lot about checklists, who the functionaries are, and that's a term that I honestly I knew the term, but I never really knew it as much as it's in now. Tools and equipment. Okay, here comes Daphne's coming in the door. Okay. We'll let her come in. There she's in. Okay. The qualifications for contestants, because believe it or not, there are some qualifications for contestants and judges. How do we announce the winners? You would think it would be simple, but it's not, and more. So what? Okay, Toastmasters speech contest. What it is, and I'm going to read this word for word, which don't really like to do, but Toastmasters describes as speech contests are an important part of the Toastmasters educational program. They provide an opportunity for Toastmasters to gain experience, as well as the opportunity for Toastmasters to learn by observant, more proficient speakers. So yes, it's a combination of, here comes everybody's coming in now. It's a combination of for yourself, pushing yourself and getting yourself out there. And it is a way to see the more proficient speakers. You get those speakers, whether it's at a club contest, an area that you're just like, wow, or there's people who you didn't know are so good and they get onto a contest and they shine. Each year, about 30,000 competitors each year, and that's from every level. So that's amazing. One of the biggest things, and I'll put these in the chat at the end, is the rule book, and the rule book. And that is, I actually keep it, and I'm not kidding. I literally have it right next to me, right next to my computer, and I access the rule book. I would love to say I have it memorized, but when in doubt, well, you have me. When in doubt for questions, but the rule book, which is in my little guide here, and that's the rule book this year, is what you need to go to. If you have previous rule books, toss them, recycle them, delete them, because we go only through this year's. So this year's has, what they do is they put last year's winner on, and so there she is. That's this. So if you had the one with the man, that's the incorrect one. That was last year's version. This is the one that we're supposed to be using. So the 2024-2025 rule book is out, and I've dove through it, good English, and we'll be talking a little bit about it later. So again, for getting contests, we'll be discussing what I call the who, what, whys, wheres, whens, hows, and whatever. What contest to hold, and I can't give you a definitive answer, but we'll talk about it. How to hold contests, where, what the dates, and how to get contestants. That's the next section. So what contest? Well, I was really hoping to have a definitive answer for everybody, but it just went to the deck on Saturday, and they're thinking about it. So I will let you know that we will definitely be holding international speech contest. Yay. That every year, that's we know every single year it's going to be international speech, period, next statement. What comes up is what other contests we're going to be holding. Well, years ago in the deck, and I was I actually was sat there and I watched this deck meeting. Somebody brought up and said, hey, why don't we do evaluation every single year and rotate among the 3 table topics, humorous and tall tales among the other 3? Yay. Well, we all decided that was great. Well, this year, Toastmasters International decided no, every year the deck has to vote on what contest to hold. So, that being said, it went to the deck. It was announced at the deck on Saturday, with given 2 weeks to think about it. That we are up for table topics. So, people who've been in Toastmasters for a while, remember that we have just recently had last year was humorous. The year before that was tall tales, which I don't think we got what tall tales are because it was so new. And then with evaluation. So that's where I put some big question marks on those. That's what I'm thinking we're going to be holding. But again, until they say yay, nay, but just to give you some ideas so international, we know. So international speech contest is, I think I have a little talk on this, but it's anything you want to talk about. There's no flaws. Evaluation is exactly as you do in the clubs. You listen to a speaker, everybody listens to the same speaker, you get back and you evaluate that speaker. You get on stage and you say, John, that was terrible. No, we never have anybody terrible, but and you talk about it. Table topics, same type of thing for table topics is you actually leave the room. So it's the same question. My question I would love to ask, but it's already been asked. It's a question of like, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? And so every single contestant gets the same exact question. And it's going to be a question similar to that. It's not going to be, give me a time in which, no, I'm wanting you to think. I'm warning people now. If we are doing table topics, it's going to be a question that's going to make you go, holy fudge in your head, but you're going to have to be a Toastmaster. And this is to test your Toastmaster skills too. As we know, table topics is not just how well you give a speech, but how well you can articulate yourself in that 1 to 2 minutes. And so that's the type of thing. And so you go into a weight room, the next person comes in, and so the same question. I know in the regular meeting, everybody's asked a different question. This time, everybody's asked the same question. And this year, the deck has also been told to think about this one. I don't know too much about this one, but there's a new contest out there, which is called the Online Speech Contest. And here's something that I'm going to, again, I hate quoting, but this is what Amanda has provided to me as the detail. Is the online speech contest enables members to practice public speaking and content development in a competitive in a competitive setting using an online platform. The topic and purpose of each speech is determined by the speaker. Each speech would fit in within the overall purpose of the contest to clearly develop and present ideas, a substantially original speech. So it's very similar to the international speech, but it's on an online. And what they also want to do is have you learn how to use, if you've ever seen a really good Zoom speech, and I am not good at it, so I'm not even going to try it. They will use all portions of their Zoom box. They'll come back out. They'll come in really fast. And that's part of the online speech. So when the judges in an online speech will be asked to judge on that. In a humorous and or a regular contest, they're really told Don't do it. You're not really supposed to pay attention to how they use the Zoom space, but they do. Judges can't, it's hard to be a judge and be not looking at it. But this one specifically wants people to use the whole speech. So that's part of the judging criteria. You want to look, so people looking, making sure the background is good. We always talk about making sure your background is good, but then we tell the judges don't look at the background. But in this case, is all of those come around. The only thing different on the online contest is it'll be up to you to bring your own computer and everything like that. It'll be at home. For the regular contest, we say, hey, everybody has an equal footing. On the online one, well, not everybody has the best computers. Not everybody has the greatest internet. It happens. So that's part of it, is learning how to use your background to the best ability. And it's a 5 to 7 minute speech as well. My understanding is how this speech, it works the same way, is that we're not just going to bring somebody to the district level. Is you start off at the club level, and we'll talk about this, and then you go to the area, division, and district. I don't know whether the district, they'll have to compete at the district or not. That's fuzzy to me. I haven't had a chance to pull these off with Amanda. We were supposed to meet last week, and she got COVID. So I didn't have a chance to ping some of these ideas off of Amanda. So that's what I understand about the online. Again, it's up to the deck whether we're going to go with it or not. All right. Now, one of the things is checklists. I will present the end. There are some checklists that I suggest you use, especially if you're new to contests. The contest, and this is the checklist that I'm going to provide, was one that was done by Troy Palmer, who is Paula's husband, and it's amazing. So it goes over the details. You can take that checklist and make it your own. You can take it, I've taken it, but it reminds you of all the basic steps that need to be done. And any checklist, that's what I recommend, is using a checklist, because there are so many things on contest planning and questions and this and that, and you need to have this and you need to have this. Have you considered this and you considered this? Using a checklist, whether it's pre-designed or not, is helpful. And you can share the checklist as much. So if you have somebody also using it, share it. And for people who just came in, I am my own Zoom moderator today, which is cool. But if you have questions, I can't really see the chat, so just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question. So I'm going to go ahead and stop now. Does anybody have any questions of what I've covered? Other than to slow down. I should know better as a Toastmaster. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move forward. And there is a checklist in the rule book. It's called a checklist. I don't consider it a checklist, but they do offer it as a checklist, but it will be something that I'm going to provide at the end of this presentation. All right. So one of the questions is, what format for a club? Now, this is where it gets a little confusing. Clubs, you can do any format you want. When I say format, you can have it online, you can be in person, or you can do a hybrid. So I know there are some clubs who, find you funny. We're an international club with people from China. We have a couple from Australia, Canada, Denver. I know they're a different country in and of itself, but so we're probably, if we hold a contest, we'll hold it online. And I don't know how we're going to bring somebody forward who lives in the area, but hey, that's a different story. But we as a club can have it that way. We can hold it hybrid, which hybrid is, I don't know if some people have done their meetings, where you have it where some people are in person and some people are on thing, or you can have it in person. Now, Toastmasters International has said, they said last year in, I think it was April, contests now from area level up will all be in person. So again, when I say, so we know that, so the people who are area directors or area director wannabes, that's something. And that will be covered. I'm going to be doing some area and division director training later, but there's nothing that we cannot, Toastmasters International cannot tell what a club does. So again, clubs can do whatever they want. Now, one of the big things I tell people is, especially if it's in person or hybrid, location, location, and location. We may already have a great location, but when you're thinking of a location, I've had clubs that may have a small meeting, but when it comes to contests, they grow up and like 3 times more people show up at a club contest than normally does. There are clubs out there that do that. So they need a location big enough for everybody. And some of these contests require you to leave the room. So, like the one club that I've joined, yes, we have an in-person location, but when the person evaluating needs to leave to work on their speech or the table topics people so they don't hear it, there's really no place for them to go. They literally have to go out into the parking lot and wait because it's a 1-bedroom, 1-office place. So maybe that's not ideal. Thus far, everybody's been cool on waiting outside in the heat, but that might be something to consider when you're looking for a location. And other things to look for, again, in person. If you're doing it hybrid, do you have the right either hybrid or online? Do you have the right communication equipment? Is the word I'm looking for. I'm not going to go too much on hybrid because, again, from this above, but hybrid meetings are tough. And how many people here do club meetings hybrid, have done meet hybrids? So you know how it can be difficult. And to have that as a contest, I highly do not recommend your first contest or your first hybrid meeting ever be a hybrid, because nothing ever seems, I see Daphne's laughing, because nothing ever works correctly, does it? You have to work it and you have to work it and you have to work it. It's a great opportunity. And to be, excuse me, give something to drink here. And I do feel bad this is me personally speaking. I know that we're going to lose a lot of people this year, not being able to, that we have to compete in person because we've got some really good competitors who can't come either due to being in a country or something like that. But it is what it is, and I can't much about it. So those are the type of things you want to consider if you're going to use a hybrid or an online. Is the equipment, is you need so much stuff. So if you can, it's preferably to do your contests in person, but again, not everybody can do so. All right, so we sort of know when. So the club contests, you need to be completed by December 31st. So December is and some clubs will do, if all 3 contests in one day, they'll just do it's a lot. I've done it, believe me. It's if you have like 2 people competing, you can go bang, 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 bang. You gavel down, you finish your contest, you walk out the door. It's tough. Ideally, it's better to schedule a contest. Let's just say we are going to do evaluation, international speech, and table topics. 1 week, table topics. And if you have time, schedule something, or if maybe the VPE can say, okay, the rest of the time is going to be fun table topics. And then the next week after that, or 2 weeks after that, to do the other contests. It also allows, if you have somebody who really, really, really likes to compete, we all know who those are, Glory Darling. So Glory is a member, she's a friend of mine, and she loves to compete. And so if you have all our contests on one day and it's the day that she can't be there, sorry. So by mixing up the dates, you do allow other people to participate. And you give time and also by doing it this way, you give people time to prepare. So going ahead now and saying, we are going to be holding our international speech contest on November 13th. Oh, okay. So now people are like, okay, do I want to compete? We'll talk about that one. And gives them time instead of saying, okay, next week's our international speech contest. Whoa. Because there are people who really want to. Now, I don't know if you've heard, but the winner of the World Champion of Public Speaking started at the club level. Yes, they may have been told to push on, but they don't just automatically give in a bypass. Oh, you were a semifinalist last year, you automatically get a bye. No. And from my understanding, I heard one speak, even at her club level, she had to compete at her club level. So she had to have time to work on her speech. She'd been working on it probably since she didn't make it the year before. So that's, again, these people who are really highly competitors don't like it being told tomorrow will be. So it gives them time and it makes it a better speech. All right, so the contestants. Obviously, to hold a contest, you will need contestants. But I'll tell you honestly, that's some of the hardest thing to do, is, especially for some clubs, is to get people to want to compete. It's not everybody. I mean, some people are not competitive. I'm not competitive. I swam, and so I did my own thing. I never had to think about anything else. I could swim and just be slow and not worry about anybody else. Didn't have to play softball and be everybody watching me. But so not everybody likes to get there. And so you also want to think about, so you do, as a club, you have the ability to say, John, you can go straight to area. If nobody else in your club wants to compete, you can nominate somebody. So let's just say you try and you try and you try, and you're like, oh, come on, somebody. And John raises his hand. Well, you can nominate John, you as a club, John to go straight forward, or you can make John compete. It's up to you guys. Just word of warning that if you let John compete and he goes overtime, he just screwed himself. I've seen it happen where nobody else is competing. Technically, all he needed to do was stop when he saw the green. And they continue on and continue on. And they continue on, and he just literally disqualifies himself and he cannot move forward. So I highly recommend is that if you only have one person, you nominate them. Yes, they can give a speech in the club meeting saying, hey, I want to practice my speech contest. Can I present it? Can I get feedback? But don't compete it. There's nothing I can't say, yes, you have to do it this way or you can't do it this way. That's my recommendation on it. So again, let's see. So contestants, recruit, prepare, and select. So yeah, a lot of it again is just finding that right person for wanting to do that. And there are clubs where you do have them, but not everybody is a competitor. And there is a thing out there for judging, and I'm just going to talk about it really briefly. It's called the console, but I'm not even certain we're allowed to use it, but it's for judging. So if you've heard somebody talk about the console, it's a way of judging offline. But there was a comment in the Toastmasters rule book about not using a third party. So I'm not 100% certain if this is a legal thing or not. So, but in case you've heard about the console, that's what it is. It's great, especially if you're hybrid or an online contest to judge. Yes, I said I need a little bit of clarification as to what this one statement in the rule book means on, because they said it's just one statement in the rule book, and I'm like, okay, what does this mean? So as far as anybody have any questions? I know it's a lot of stuff. I am recording this, and I will present my PowerPoint. I'll give my PowerPoint at the end as well. All right, so I just talked about contestants. So who are the functionaries? So the term, again, I'd never really heard the term functionaries before I became a Toastmaster and I started doing contests, and I'm like, functionaries? What are functionaries? I'd never heard the term. And they're organizers, and I love that term. I think Felicia helped me on that term last year. So you have 3 separate functionaries. And you don't really have to do all this at the club, but this is something. You have a contest chair. And the contest chair is the one who sort of puts the whole thing together. Hint, hint, hint. It's a really good pathways project, because there's many pathways projects that you can make about a contest. And being a chair, whether it's at the club, area, division, district, you're a club chair. That's a lot of work. because you have to recruit people, you have to do things. So it's a really good pathways project. And the higher up you get, it's a good DTM project as well for the above level. So I'm sort of giving you some hints later to have things in your ID in your crop. So if you're ever looking for a DTM project, HPL, it would probably have to be pretty high, but it is something you can consider. You have a contest master, and that is the person, and is the one who gets up there, and that's the sort of the Toastmaster of the event. They're called the contest master. They're the ones that introduce everything. They hopefully will read a script. We really like people to follow scripts because, as I think we've seen in some contests, people get off topic and they say things that they're not supposed to say or things like that. And so we have scripts available. We are working on the scripts right now, and just follow the scripts and insert as it is. And you also need a chief judge. And the chief judge is the one who sort of is in charge of the judges. Sometimes you have the chief judge and the content, some players, they're all the same in a small club, but that's the one who's really important. You also need, as I said, it seems like a little bit, but it gets to be a lot. You need judges, and judges have to remain a non-mouse. Now, I have a little story on this one. I was a regulatory, a wetland investigator, and we received a complaint. This was before the internet. It came in the mail, and the complaint was signed a non-mouse. Did the person not know how to spell anonymous? Were they just being fun? We have no idea to this date, so I cannot say the word anonymous without thinking about a non-mouse. So the judges remain anonymous. Now, in a club, I should say it's anonymous to the best of your ability. You're all sitting around a table at a club. It's pretty obvious who the judges are. It's more of a wink, wink, nod, nod. I don't know who the judges are, but you try them. You don't announce it ahead of time, especially you try not ahead of time, like, oh, tomorrow we're going to be holding our speech contest and Daphne's going to be competing, but Mina will be one of the judges. No, so you just sort of want to be quiet, and if Mina shows up and she's a judge, that's great. Ideally, you should have 5 judges, and I know that's hard. It gets more and more and more as you go to the area and the district and the division level of the amount of judges the Toastmasters want you to have, but ideally they say 5. That's a lot of judges, especially because you want other people have to be all these other roles, and you can't have more than one role. So I know I'm asking things that you're like, this lady's asking way too much of me, but you do what you can at any level. So I always say is, yes, this is what we should have, but you do what you can. And if you'd only have a couple judges, you have a couple judges. You should have at least one ballot counter. And that's the person who's literally going to collect the ballots from the judges and count them. It's literally counting ballots. You want to definitely have a timer. And it's that same type of thing, because timing is so important. Because the person goes over, they're disqualified. So that person needs to know the green, the yellow, and the red. They need to know the green, the yellow, and the red, because in a contest, you have to meet that green or 30 seconds below the green. You can't go above the red, or you're disqualified. And you can get disqualified at the district level. So I've heard stories. Okay, Vicky, I love her to death. She's almost like a mom to me, or a sister. She went all the way from Tallahassee down to Orlando to compete in a district event, and she went overtime. She got disqualified. So it doesn't matter. So when Vicky was just a regular old Toastmaster like the rest of us, but you can get disqualified. And if you have something online, you would need a Zoom master. But if it's in person, you don't need a Zoom master. And it's always helpful if you could have, and I call it one more. Somebody who's really good, who knows everything. So let's just say you're not planning to use this person, and they show up and they're really good. Oh, hey, come on in. I need you to do this role or this role. So I always have somebody on my and one more type of thing. So again, you can bring them in at the last minute. And there are going to be things, there are for judges, there are going to be some training. There is a course, or not a course, I don't know what I'm going to call it. We'll call it a course, and where that Beth Ramsey offers, and it's going to be held, and I don't know the exact dates, but she calls it Judgeology. And we'll be holding 2 sessions of Judgeology. And it's amazing because it teaches you how to judge a contest, which is different than doing a regular speech. So it gets you in that mode of how to think like a judge. She's really good at it. She offered it last year, and I'm bringing her back for 2 sessions this year. And teaches, and we'll also be recording all these. So if you do miss them, you can say people are, I don't know how to be a judge. Here's Beth's thing. So again, some of the tools and equipment, the current rule book. So have that with you. Because the last thing you want to do is all of a sudden somebody said, "Oh, were they allowed to do that?" And you all look at each other. Oh, anybody have a copy of the rule book? Just bring a copy of the rule book, whether you have it quick in a backpack or something like this. Yes, do you have a question, Beth?
No. I was just answering you.
Yeah, so you should have it with you. You said you don't have to have it in your own binder, but I've decided this year I'm trying to be a little bit more organized, so I have it in a binder. The script, bring that with you. Now, it's also important to do paperwork. So I don't know how many people have been in clubs before, contests. You, of course, have your paperwork. This is really, really, really important that the judges sign the judge's certification that says, "Hey, I'm qualified to be a judge." We'll talk about what the qualifications are. The contestant sign saying, "Hey, I'm okay to be a contestant." We've had people be disqualified, and we're like, or like, "Oh, well, they shouldn't be." And it turns out they never filled out the contestant certification form. Whoops. So we almost can't. So then we have to get to a point. We have this big discussion. Can they be disqualified if they've never signed the form? Be a good thing and make sure. So as long they do not start speaking until they've signed that contestant certification form. If they get up and they haven't signed it, say, "I'm sorry, you cannot compete." And I've had it. I had it last year. We kept telling this person, "You got to fill it out. You got to fill it out." He shows up. We gabbled down. We're like, "We're sorry. We needed that contestant of eligibility form that we've been asking you for the past month. We didn't get it. Well, you cannot compete." Period. Next sentence. So those are really important, that it makes sure everybody's doing on the same. And you also want your judges' forms. So these are the forms, and it shows you up a little bit of thing. And this is how the judges will judge. And it gives us a form. There are many, many, many forms, and it'll all be on the link form that I sent you at the end. But these are forms where everybody's using the same one. So it's pretty much that we're all judging across the same. So before you go to a contest, if you're especially in person, you want to make sure that you have all of these. They're the same forms from year to year to year. So if you have things from previous years, you can use them. I print out a whole bunch, to be honest. I usually print out a whole bunch at the beginning of the year, and I'll just bring them and bring them back and continue them. So also you want to, this one isn't as much at the club level, but there is a way to test for contestant eligibility, especially once you start getting up in the levels. You can go to Toastmasters International. You will put the member's ID, and it can get a little confusing. It's not the easiest form to use, but it'll tell you if the person is eligible to compete, because we need to have the person and the club eligible. So we don't want somebody who, if their club isn't eligible or if they haven't paid their fees, whoops. And then we get to the next level and we find out that person was really never able to compete to begin with. So especially at the club level, you guys know who's paid your dues and who hasn't paid your dues. And it's a good way to get people to pay their dues. Joe, really, we love you to compete. Come on, you got to pay your dues to be part of this club. You can't just compete. And you'll need a timing device. So stopwatch. To be honest, most people use their cell phones, and that's absolutely fine, in a way to show the colors. And there's many ways that people show the colors. You get everything from the things that look like a street light to the little cards. Problem is with little cards, though, is if you're in a contest and you're back here and you're showing this little thing of green this big, well, what's that? Some of us don't see as well. So again, and also thinking also, you also have to make sure if any of these type of things, you want to ask if anybody needs accessibility. We know who those people are, but it's always good to ask, like, does anybody need something called to them? And how do you want it? Bobby Blackman is a good friend of mine, and he's a member of our club, and he has to say green, yellow, red, or yeah, in that order. But in terms of, so don't just assume, always ask, saying, hey, does anybody need anything said to them? So it's always, again, have that accommodation. Oops. All right, go forward. Forward that direction. Okay. So again, when we look at qualifications for humorous, this was last year for humorous, and it's the same thing. I forgot to change this slide. Table topics, anybody can compete in table topics. If you're a Toastmaster, you can compete in table topics. You can judge in table topics. Perfect. On your first day, you can literally sign up for a club. Your first day competence happen. Your first day in the club, and you compete, and you can move forward. Amazing. Okay. So evaluation, it's the same type of thing, is that anybody can be an evaluator. So you can have it your first day. Again, you can give the test speaker. I'll give you, there's a little thing on the test speaker, but you can be, and each for day one, you can judge an evaluation contest. The test speaker does have to be a Toastmaster. This is something that in years past, we've gone back and forth. Do they, don't they, do they, don't they? It's actually in the rule book that says test speaker must be a Toastmaster. It can't, even though and then the international speech contest. This is where it gets a little weird. This will all be part, I know I'm going to give it to the first time, and it's okay if you don't catch it, but so the contestants must have completed, I'm going to read this, levels 1 and level 2 of any path in Toastmaster or be a DTM. So they really want somebody who's competing in international speech to have given a couple speeches. At the club level, there's no minimum for judges, so I can be a judge. As we go up, you need a little bit more qualifications for a judge. They also have to be it. But at club level, anybody can be a judge, but the actual competitors should have levels 1 and 2. They can compete. Honestly, somebody could compete, but they wouldn't really be your official winners. So that's not saying that John, maybe on his first day, wants to give a speech, and even though he wins, we can't let him forward because he's not really an official competitor. Now, I know there are some new clubs out there. So if you have a new club, if you've been chartered within the past year, that these minimums don't apply. So if you know somebody who's like, well, we just chartered, we don't have members that have had time. Toastmasters is like, cool, no problem. If you're a member of that, none of these qualifications apply, you can do it. So they have thought of that because we don't want to penalize any of our newer clubs that haven't had time, that have amazing speakers. All right. So let's say we've had our contest. Yoo-hoo. First thing, and I hate this part of it, you have to start it off by saying if there was a time disqualification, all you'll state is there was 1 time disqualification. There were 0 time disqualifications. You don't give the name. You just say, everybody knows who it is. We all know that. But officially, you just say if there was 1, 2, 3, whatever, or 0. Then you're going to read the winners. And you're going to read them in second or third, second, and first place. I know it's awkward, especially when you've got two people competing. Officially, they're supposed to notify the second place and then the first place. So the first place winner is sort of like, that's just the way Toastmasters wants it to work. Again, it is a little awkward, but it is the third place, second place, and third place. And to be honest, this is where a lot of times I see the breakdown in the announcement, the one form that you send to the Toastmaster, the contest master says it one way, and the contest master sometimes flips it the other direction. And I've heard it saying, it's sort of embarrassing. And the third place winner is Daphne. And you're like, no, 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 Daphne won, Daphne won. So if that ever happens, just stop and say, hey, that's a mistake. You need to stop it immediately. Because once you gavel down, all those things become final. So at any point in time, especially on the announcement of the winners, there is an issue. You've got to say something. I've actually seen it last year in an area contest. It was like, they announced the guy, and I was like, really? I didn't think he was that good. He was okay, but I didn't think he was first. And the guy who was third was the one that I thought was the winner. And turns out later they announced them backwards. Nobody said anything. And guess what? It was what it was. So if at any point in time you see something. Now, also big things except the club is there's a notification form. I'm a state employee. I'm a government employee, yes. So we love our forms. Toastmasters loves their forms too. And there is a notification form. And there's a notification form. It's the same notification form, but that form should be sent to the area director. And it's just who the person is, it's the cell phone, all the information. And so that should, to be honest, it's do it the day of. You finish the contest, you send the form up, you're done. So it's really important that the area directors aren't getting ready for their contests and going, people, I need those forms. Who are your winners? I need to contact your winners. Be nice to your area directors. Area directors, you will like it. Have those forms, get them as soon as you can. It makes the person above you life so much easier. And recognition, there's various ways you can do it. Certificates, to be honest, yes, Toastmasters has certificates, but they're sort of ugly. I'll say it that, but you don't have to use them. You can create your own. There are people who have some talent, which is not me, but there are people who can create beautiful templates and beautiful certificates. You can, if you want, give trophies or display, however you want to do it as a club. There could be a cost involved, but again, a certificate, you can get some nice ones. There are some the Toastmasters do give you. And when we go to the website, if we have time, you can download an entire package. So let's just say for international speech, it comes with the judges package. It comes with this. It comes with this. It comes already with contest certificates if you want to use them. Again, they're not my favorite. So you can see it down at the bottom. Certificate and the winner's one isn't much prettier. Daphne, I see her nodding her head. Yeah, they are what they are. I mean, for those people who don't have anything else, that's great. And again, the next is the area, again, division, and these are going to be in person. So I do know some areas are already planning together. One of my clubs has already said that they're competing. The area, I don't even know what two areas. They're going to be working they're working together on a location. They've already formed it. So this will be in person. And that's it's going to be hard. So you have to start thinking as a club, the winner, will they be able to compete? I mean, will they be able to move on? Yes, you can have your winner, but you might have to have the second place person actually be the one to compete at the next level. Because find your funny. Let's just say Melanie wins. Melanie lives in Australia. I doubt Melanie will be able to come to the would be willing to come to the United States I think we're in Ocala in that area. Come to Ocala to compete. So even if she wins, we'll be like, well, Melanie, we didn't have number 2 to compete. So keep that in mind. It's sort of that beauty school. If your first winner cannot compete, number 2, number 3 can. There isn't anything that says you can compete that direction. So I'm going to go ahead. Let's see if this works. I'd like to have happen. No, it won't work. So the thing that I'm going to be giving you, I forgot to change the slide as well. This will have a link. When I give you this resources, it will have a link to the rule book, this year's rule book, regardless of what that shows. Toastmasters International It's really good for speech contests. So if you click on that link, it'll tell you. There's also a lot of really good training for Zoom Masters and Toastmasters. And that we actually also are doing, hopefully, a really robust District 84 contest page. So anything you want contests, we're going to be putting, especially from area and above, the dates, the locations, and the scripts, and a lot of other information when I can get a chance to catch up with Amanda. And that will all be on the Toastmasters website. So that will be hopefully very robust and a way for us to help you out. Hey, sweetie. My cat decided to place there. So I'm going to go ahead. Let's see. I think that was it. I'm going to go ahead and stop my computer. All right. So my cat decides he wants to be up here right now. Thank you. So in the chat, I'm going to put a few different documents. So the first one will be the rule book, my favorite. Now, one thing I forgot to talk about the rule book is if you've looked at past rule books, if you haven't done this, isn't going to mean anything. Next to the new rules, you will see a little black diamond. That means it's a new rule. But to be honest, there's a few rules that didn't have a black diamond that they added. Only because I knew the rule book backwards and forward. And I'm like, hey, that wasn't in last year, but it's not highlighted. So again, if you just want to look through them quickly, that is the one. The club, let's see, here's the important check, the list. I'm going to put that in now. And that has all the links that I talked about. Has a link to the rule book itself and all the other things. And then I'm also going to put in a copy of Troy's list. All right. So when you go to Toastmasters International, I know this was a lot of stuff I know I gave to you. One of the things that's really cool that I like about Toastmasters International is, let's just say you're doing international contests. They have a document all together where you can download as one big document everything you're going to need for the evaluation contest. So you don't need to pull the evaluation judges form. You don't need to pull it. Bring that link and it will bring you everything at the same time. So that's very helpful. Do make sure that it's this year's form. So if you have anything from last year, I don't think it's changed, but better to just throw it out and start again this year. Just because if anything's changed, this way you'll have the newer forms. All right, I know that was a lot of stuff. Does anybody have any questions? No, you don't count. No? And I'm always here. So my job is contest chair, but it's also to be here to be your questions. Things come up, weird things that you would have never have thought, I don't know, such and such, this happened, is it legal? Or we're thinking of doing this. The questions I got last year, they were great. They were amazing questions, but there's things that they came out of the blue. And that's what we're here for, is that I'd rather have you, I'm not certain if this is legal or I'm not certain. I'd rather have you contact myself or Amanda, and we actually hopefully will have a contest email address. I don't know whether that will come to me, that will come to both of us, and we'll answer it. Just there. So if you have it, please go ahead and ask the questions now. And other than later on saying, oh, I wish you had asked me this earlier, because we can't. So again, that's one of my purposes of being here, is to push on to have people, ask people to do contests, be there, but to be I shouldn't say I know the rule book, but I have studied the rule book a lot more than you guys have. You may look through it one day. So that's part of my purpose here, as in the district, is to be that thing. Or again, even sometimes I'll have to sometimes go, really good question. Vicki, Felicia, last year, our trio. Hey, trio, what do you guys think of this? We had some good discussions coming in from the car last year on the way home from one of the contests. The three of us were in the car, and we had Amanda on cell phone, and we had this long conversation on something that happened. So it's not always cut and dry at our level. So we don't expect you to know everything as well.
Right, so this is
Hey,
Mahendran.
Mahendra.
I have a question. It's like when we select this all the functionaries, is there any kind of training or something we need to ask them to like prepare? Like, say for example, there are role like contest chair is very lot more work need to be done. The contest master. Is there anything we need to be help them? We can pick them based on what they have done in the past. If somebody new say that okay, I'm interested to do it.
It's
What
better. That's
is
a really
our
good question. It is better to have people, especially as contest chair, master, and chief judge, to have people who have done it before. To be honest, the best job, if you have somebody who really doesn't want, has never done a contest, ballot counter. And that's what I started off with. To be 100% honest, I didn't have a clue. I show up at an area contest. Like, I don't even know what an area contest was really, other than what I've seen at my club. And I'm like, I'll be a ballot counter. Really didn't know what a ballot counter was. I think I just had a little bit about it, and it really got me into contests. So, yes, ballot counters are really good because you usually work with somebody else and have them. But yeah, I mean, there isn't any type of requirements, but it is better to have somebody who knows what they're doing on those bigger levels.
yeah, my question rephrase.
Okay.
When somebody sign up the role which they have never done in the past, do they need to go for any kind of a training or any kind of advice from
Officially,
other?
no.
No,
I mean,
not
there
official.
isn't anything. We are, I don't think you heard Mahendran. Oh, no, you didn't. We are, Beth Ramsey is going to be offering a judge, she calls it a judgeology course. It's not required, but it is something, a training. And I wanted, she'll be offering that. So there's not, we cannot require anything, but it's
Okay,
helpful to have.
thank you.
And we're going to have a script. So hopefully the contest master doesn't start making things up. It still happens. We have a script, and it doesn't matter if you're at the club level, if you're at the district level, they go off a script. They tend to decide to go this direction. I put a script in front of my people and said, "You shall read it," and all of a sudden, I'm like, "What's he doing?" But you lead a horse. What is it? Lead a horse to water, and they're going to do what they're going to do. But you try to
Thank
make
you.
it better for them. Marry me now, Daniel. And there are requirements. I know some of you are area directors of, so area directors, any content, and you cannot be competitors. So you can compete at the club level, you can have fun, but you won't be officially competitors. So Mahendran, I know you're an area director. If you wanted to compete at your club, that's fine, but you're not an official competitor. You will not be able to move forward. There are people who can and cannot compete. Anybody who's ever won can never compete again.
So if it's something we compete, then we should ask the audience. Like if there's only two members, then we don't need for any vote because we are naturally selecting the other person going
If
forward.
there's two,
Okay.
yes. If there's something, so if there are two people, yes, you definitely want to compete. If you have one, you can move them forward, or you can
Yes.
have that person compete. But if they miss overtime, they miss overtime.
Okay.
So it's just a fun thing, and it's to have fun with it. And that's what I'm saying is that there's nothing major. I mean, there's no rocket sciences involved. It's fun, even at any level. To be honest, there are people who are, yes, take it very seriously, but in general, it's something to have as a bonding experience. Because you've ever done the Moments of Truth, they talk about having external things, and this is a way to get the club together and to have something different than a typical open the meeting, have a speaker. It changes the meeting. All right, that's all I
Hello,
have. I appreciate. Yes, Mary, go ahead.
Hi, Sue. I have a small question. So, at the club level, the winner of last year's contest, will they are they able to compete again?
Yes, the only one who cannot compete again is the world champion of public speaking. They are done for their life, at least in terms of the world, of the international. But yes, anybody can compete, and some people actually will do that in terms of. I've heard this, like the people who literally go for those international ones. they got semifinal last year. Well, they have to start back at the club level and work their way up year after year after year until they reach that pinnacle. So yes.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
All right, that's all I have. It's been an hour.